So tonight's the big night.
Yeah, man. We are back. Summer vacation is over.
I can't wait. What time are we recording?
Can't wait for what? What are you talking about?
For you to introduce me as the fourth man.
You're not the fucking fourth man.
What do you mean I'm not the fucking fourth man?
Well, for starters, you're not a fucking man. And half the time you don't fucking show up anyway.
Fuck you. It's 2019 and I can be whatever I want to be. It's not my fault you fucking marks aren't woke.
Oh, Mom.
It's time for another wrestling podcast. All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Guys, I got blocked again on Twitter.
I'm your mark of marks.
That's the most reliable source on the interwebs.
The social assassin at your disposal, bitches.
Summer vacation is over. Guys, AWP's back. We're back. I love it. Are you guys ready for this or what?
I don't know if I remember how to do this, Credo. I'm a little nervous.
If it's been too long, you know I'm Credo. Angry Cooter?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Minority Mike?
Roll call.
This is it. But guys, we've been teasing it. There's a fourth man. Who could be joining AWP? Any thoughts before I bring him in?
It's not my mother. We've already established this.
Your mom is not the fourth man, but almost.
Does he ramble?
He's not a wrestling ramble show that's on like PBS, but not at all. Guys, I'm kind of bringing them back, if you will. So, Jonathan Benjamin, JB, whatever you want to. I don't know what to call you anymore. Well, you're the fourth man.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm happy to be here. I hope that no one got their hopes too high up. It's just me, but
we had a milk it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm super happy to be back and ready to talk some wrestling with the guys.
And Jonathan, just let everybody know too. You're not just back. I mean, you're gonna tell us what else could you possibly be doing with us? Because I mean, we're also bringing interviews back, which are starting today. We did it for a while, and we did it great for 3 years in a row. Took a break from that. Tried doing it a little bit again. Took a break again, and it's a lot for 3 guys, but for 4 guys, the sky's the limit.
4 guys, 1 interview. I think that's a movie I watched one time.
No cups. No cups.
No cup. Hashtag no cup. No. I listened to it. I was as most of you probably know, I was in Parts Unknown for a while and Bizarro World, and I'm back and I'm happy. I was listening to the podcast the whole time. I was getting that podcast itch, and I asked the guys to make sure it was okay to come back. And I'm excited about doing some interviews and talking to some people and coming up with some new things to do for the show.
Awesome, man. Speaking of new, we did talk to Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid Justice, who's going to be today's guest. Jonathan, one of your first interviews back. I joined you. We had a great time. Stay tuned for that, right? I mean, he was pretty nice. I was surprised. He showed up. He was talking great. We talked a lot about a lot of stuff I didn't think he'd talk about. But what'd you think? I mean, the first guest back, Psycho Sid.
Yeah, that was just one of those things that happened out of nowhere. Someone contacted us and said, "Hey, we got Sid, and he wants to be on the show." I didn't think it was. I thought it was just going to be some guy named Sid, and it turned out to be the real deal. So I'm super pumped. I'm excited for you all to hear it, and hopefully I didn't have too much ring rust for this interview.
He's always was one of my favorites, especially my all-time favorite moment, definitely. The camera to Jose Lothario's chest in the guard. It's one of the funniest fucking things, and it was at a point where I think I was just like everybody else. I was so tired of Shawn Michaels as champ, and I just wanted to see a dominant big man in that role again. And Sid was perfect, man. He played the part perfect, and he made me laugh my balls off.
There's a lot of Sid moments. I can go off right now with all the Sid moments that was great. That made me laugh. Memorable ones. I don't know how he feels, if they're embarrassing to him or he laughs about it to this very day. But I mean, we're alive, pal. That's one. I would like to know what his batting average is in softball. What his on base percentage is. If it's comparable to his in ring work.
What about when he blew up the the can of shaving cream in the barber shop there.
Oh, that's another one on my list.
Yeah,
and
man.
he no sold it, and he continued to cut the promo with the shaving cream all over him.
Oh man. Well, he does give predictions for this year's World Series, so you'll have to listen for that. He did mention baseball. He did call us out for something, Jonathan. I think so. Here's the funny story that happened. So I talked to Sid beforehand for like almost 40 minutes. I wish I recorded it. Then we called him back again, and when we called him back again, he was watching his nephew, and the nephew started crying, so we had to stop the interview. So we called him back, and we finally did the interview, and we had, I don't know, he was just fun to talk with. Surprisingly, I did not think he'd be open about what he is, and he's also having a new podcast coming out next week, September. Is The Vicious Circle with Psycho Sid. One of the Sids. I keep getting confused. But he's going to have a podcast soon, too. But we're great. It was great to have him on. And, guys, that's just the beginning of guests. We have more to come, so stay tuned to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. And for all you NFL marks out there, it's a new season. Antonio Brown is on the Raiders. Le'Veon Bell is with the Jets. Odell Beckham is in Cleveland. But you know, the one thing that hasn't changed? It's where I'm putting my money down on all the games. MyBookie is the place to bet on football every weekend. MyBookie has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sportsbook, period. This year they're hosting the first online handicapping super contest. First place is guaranteed to win at least $100,000. And it only costs $100 to enter. All you got to do is pick 5 NFL games against the spread every week to climb the leaderboard and score your share of a huge cash prize pool. Now guys, I would only recommend this service because it's been good to me. And that's why MyBookie is always the right place. You bet, you win, they pay. MyBookie has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks in the business. And for you fantasy guys out there, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Up to $1,000 first deposit bonus. Double your first deposit. Use promo code AWrestling to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code AWrestling when creating your account to claim the bonus. Bet, win, get paid. But guys, you know, I just said we came back from summer break. What have we been up to? I feel like I don't get a summer break anymore being an adult. I still work, and I still have to do side jobs to get that, what is that, Cooter? What kind of money?
That fuck money, baby.
There you
The
go.
green and black.
I know. So I've been working all summer, but other than that, you know, I've been happy to finish up on some TV shows. I just finished The Boys on Amazon Prime. I love that show. It's like superheroes gone bad, but like what they're really doing. Pretty awesome. I think you get to see superheroes do some stuff that you don't really get to see them do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's like if it's a corporate world.
Yeah, if they were sponsored and like them doing drugs on the side and fucking, it was just good. I recommend it to everybody. But The Boys was pretty awesome, and I'm also starting Glow season 3. I can't help it. I love it. I'm watching Glow on Netflix.
I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm on episode 5 right now, and so far so good. You know, I mean, I do like it. It just, I think the first season was their best season, to be honest with you.
No, yeah, and it was like more how it became what it became, and now it's just like they're just milking it for whatever they can. But I'd love to speak to some of those girls. Hopefully get some of the other gorgeous ladies of wrestling on here from Netflix. We did have 3 of the original Glow ladies on here not too long ago, but I don't know. I've been watching that, and I've been loving the Righteous Gemstones or whatever it is on HBO. Do you got, what's his name? Fucking Kenny Powers. All his
Yes.
all his shows and series. It's hilarious.
God,
There's only
HBO is just obsessed with bringing back the same people for shows, aren't they?
It's
It's like you get branded with that fucking HBO stigma. They always bring you back.
And then you got the Breaking Bad movie coming out.
That's right.
I saw the trailer for that the other day. I got hyped up for that shit.
Man, it's gonna be a good last half of the year, I guess. So, but what else, guys? I mean, that's just me. I've been working, been watching some shows. What have you been up to? Because I know Cooter and Jonathan, you've had some news. We don't have to say it on here, but you've had quite an eventful summer too. But what have you guys been up to?
Well,
We,
Cooter and
yeah.
I got engaged, so
Together?
It's 2019. It's
Whoa. Me and JB
Woke.
separately entered what I like to call the 3-ring circus. You know what the 3 rings are, obviously, would be the engagement ring, then comes the wedding ring, and Credo, you can attest to this, then comes the suffering.
Well, there you go. Off the market, ladies. Off the market. But Mike, you're next, baby. You're next, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's going on with that.
All right, well, besides getting some rings on some fingers, guys, what else have you been up to? Tell me, let's let the people into the so-called lives of what we do outside of here. I don't know. What have you been up to?
I guess TV-wise, let me see. I finished up Jessica Jones. That's the last Marvel series for Netflix.
Did season 3 drop already?
Yes. It was at the
Yeah,
beginning of the summer. It was
See,
really
that's the
good.
thing. I had no idea it dropped till you just said that.
Yeah, the second season was so-so, but they made up for it big time. Season 3, it's a very appropriate ending to Marvel on Netflix. I checked out what else? Chernobyl was amazing from HBO. Right now, you're gonna think I'm a weirdo, but I'm on that. 13 Reasons Why.
Oh, I just started that too, man.
Oh my God, that show is fucking me up, dude. But it was nice to have a break from wrestling, even though, for the most part, what I've watched, there's been some good, there's been a lot of bad, and there's just like a whole bunch of questions in my head, and that I just don't understand why certain things are done a certain way. But well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
13 Reasons Why. That's a show I just started. Now I'm on episode 2 for the season that's happening right now. So far, so good. And that a lot of you don't know, but I am a boxing trainer, and my boxing program has expanded as of this summer. So now from 2 days a week, I am doing 4 days a week, which is awesome. And that it grew from just 4 people. Now I have 18 clients, which is pretty fucking good.
Wow.
Other than that, man, I want to fight Sony Pictures. I do.
No more Spider-Man.
No more Spider-Man in the MCU. That really, I don't know why it pissed me off as much as it did, but it really pissed me off. I'm just thinking about it right now. I'm getting pissed off. It just, for some reason, it really pissed me off because I really liked the story they were telling in the MCU, and now we're going to go back to Sony, where Sony can't even tell a good Marvel story.
It's so greedy, man. They can't just work together and make billions. They got to, come on.
And it doesn't, I don't know whose fault exactly is. Maybe it is Disney's fault. Maybe it is Sony's fault. But regardless what it is, we all know where Spider-Man belongs. He belongs in the MCU.
Yeah, it'll be serious.
You act like this shit's not gonna get fucking ironed out. You guys are crying over nothing. Stop.
I hope it does.
I know,
they got 2 years to get this shit together.
Yeah.
What everyone's failed to mention is that the new Joker trailer dropped today.
I heard they got an R-rated.
I love it.
It looks incredible, and I know it's not MCU, and I know I guess the best part about this too is if you kind of look at the director and even like Joaquin Phoenix, they're basically saying this is nothing to do with any other Joker or any other Batman or anything like that. This is literally just what they wanted to do, and I think that's what's going to make the movie like incredible.
No, yeah, I was worried because I heard who the director was, and if you don't remember who the director is without even his name, he did the Hangover movies. But if you remember, I think it was the first Hangover movie or what? He's the guy on the elevator who the girl's going down on him, and he's like, they go to hit the elevator or something, and that's the guy. That's the director. He does a few other parts. I think he was in some other movies too. I think, regardless. So I was worried. I thought they were going to make it more of like a silly joke or whatnot, so, pun intended. But it looks awesome. Joaquin Phoenix looks like an awesome Joker, and that's what I think what's great about it is that it's a standalone. Like, we don't need to have other people from other movies. Like, just make it this movie, and that's it. So it's exciting. A lot of stuff. A lot of the year of the clowns, I guess, killer clowns, because you got it coming out too in September, October. So
that's right.
A good year for clowns, I guess, or killer clowns. Jonathan, but what else, man? What have you been up to the most? I mean, you've been away for a little bit. Anything else you want to tell the listeners out there?
Listen, got engaged, so that's the wedding planning. Cooter, good luck with all that whenever you start getting into there. Been doing some shows. Went to the Monster Mania horror convention down in Jersey last week or a week before. That was pretty cool. finished Stranger Things when that came out, the
that's
third
right.
season of that. Really awesome.
That was good too. Yeah, it was better than the second.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, just kind of slowly but surely putting my toes back into the pro wrestling world. Went to an awesome Northeast wrestling show not too long ago, and looking forward to hitting some more of those up. And yeah, just really just kind of getting back into it.
You mentioned Prison Break, Northeast Wrestling at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. One of Jon Moxley's last shows before he had to pull out of AEW. We'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm not going to brag, but I helped produce the show like I did with Redemption in November with Kenny Omega, but it's hectic, man. It's hectic doing these kind of shows, but you were there, Jonathan, for most of it. What did you think? I mean, Enzo returned for the first time where he had his last match where me and Cooter were there. We saw his last match at the Civic Center. I thought he did great. You know, what's great is that the man walked out with no music, just did it all heel, Mike Tyson style, black trunks, walking to the ring. It was, you know, not the how you doing, none of that. And he just came out as a heel, and I don't know, I thought he left a lot in the ring. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of talent, and, you know, that's one thing that we can say about being in the Northeast here, that a lot of people come out to these shows. A lot of people, I mean, we had AEW talent, we had other independent talent, we had Northeast homegrown talent. So that match was actually Enzo versus Brian Pillman Jr., which was like a crazy matchup. I mean, just to think about that. And yeah, I really, you know, again, a lot of people, whoever you are listening to this, if you're not like right in the Northeast, you probably don't understand just how many shows there are going around in the Northeast, and every day, every night, there's something going on here. And this was probably the most star-studded lineup that there had been in a long time. So to see Jon Moxley, to see Luchasaurus, to see Brian Pillman Jr., to see Enzo and Cass, like Kai and Tai, one half of Kai and Tai, Funaki was there, or 1/3 of Kai and Tai was there. Dustin Rhodes. I mean, it was just the amount of talent there was just really, really crazy. So it was good to see everybody, see some fellow marks, and there's some more coming up. I know we've got one in Waterbury coming up too.
Yeah, man. You know, it was funny because Cooter and Mike, I think you brought it up because everybody kept posting pictures with Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, and it's hilarious because I have it on my phone. I'll have to send it to you guys later, but I have like the live photos, and you take it. It takes like a few frames before, and you can hit the animation of how like and it's. This is why I hated him so long ago. Like years ago, I think when we went to WrestleMania 29, because we met the Shield on Access, and you know we got all the autographs, and he's the same way. Like he's just grumpy at these signings, and maybe he's just doing it to kayfabe, whatever. But he just never looks happy. He never greets any of the fans like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He's just fucking whatever, starry-eyed, whatever, just sitting there. And it's just like that for everybody. But I mean, like, you're paying $20, $30, $50 for autographs and photos, and like these are the photos that you get out of it. It's just, come on, John, fucking smile, man. Like, people are paying you money.
I was laughing my ass off from this, Credo. I'm sitting up there in Lake George. The deal was done. You know, I'm chilling out in the hotel, and people are posting up these pics, and I'm like, oh boy, doesn't he look happy to be in Poughkeepsie? Like, what the fuck, dude? I just don't understand that. I mean, I don't expect you to sit there and, you know, what's crazy to me is that there's just some people who, whether they want to be there or not, they always look happy when they're around the fans. Like, you remember we went to, was it Danbury Mania? Ric Flair stood for every single fucking picture.
Yeah. Like
nowadays, these guys are sitting in chairs, and you have to stand in front of a table in front of them while they're sitting down. It's fucking ridiculous, and they can't even fucking smile. Give me my money back, bitch.
And it's not like you gave them $1. Like, people are coughing up a lot of money for these photos and autographs, and it's like, come on. They're your fans. Like, show some respect of like, hey, happy to meet you and whatnot. It's just funny, but yeah, I have some animated photos I gotta send you because it's just like he doesn't change at all. But that was just funny. So that was his last singles match. The rest of the weekend for Northeast Wrestling, he was put into tag team matches, and then like right after that happened that week, it came out that he had a case of MRSA come back in his elbow, and I think it was still there at the Northeast Wrestling shows, but he was able to wrestle. He just didn't take many bumps on his elbow. But yeah, so he's out of All Out. We'll talk about that a little bit later with All Out. But you know what I didn't like at the show? I feel like there's too many AEW references. Like, Northeast Wrestling deserved more credit for putting the show together. It was all like, oh, we'll see you on AEW. Oh, well, at the end of the show, like, everything was hinted towards AEW. And I get it. I don't mind nods and whatnot to other companies, but like, I wanted to see more nods to Northeast Wrestling for putting those fans in the seat, putting on that kind of a show. It wasn't AEW. It was Northeast Wrestling that did it. So that was the one thing that kind of threw me out, is like, not a lot of praise for Northeast Wrestling or the people behind the scenes of what they do. So I get it, guys. AEW, it's coming. We're happening. They're going to be on TV soon. But at the same time, you're wrestling at Northeast Wrestling that night. So I don't know. But all in all, a great show regardless. But guys, I think let's just get to it, because we're going to talk a little bit later about AEW versus NXT and possibly what's going to happen at All Out. But Jonathan, man, before we send you out of here, though, do you want to toss it to the Psycho one? I don't know what you call him. I never know what to call him.
Listen, thanks for tuning in tonight, and get ready to listen to the master and the ruler of the world, the man, Psycho Sid Vicious.
All right, so Sid, how would I introduce you? I mean, Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. Which Sid name did you like the best?
I like Sid Vicious the best. It's just the first one I came up with. Actually, it was it was given to me as a nickname as a kid. I'd come back from a vacation from Jamaica. I was just a teenager, and my friends got me a T-shirt saying Sid Vicious with Mickey Mouse in the middle of it. And so when I was doing the Lord Humongous character, Japan didn't like that character, and they wanted another name. And I was just moving territories from continental Memphis, and so I came up with that character, Sid Vicious.
Speaking of vicious, we have to talk about the Vicious Circle podcast that's coming out in September. What can you tell us about it? Can you kind of let us know a little, like, behind the scenes, what this podcast is going to be like?
This is the thing I'm right now just myself studying podcasts, and I've gotten Steve Joyner has helped me on this, and he sent me a copy of, say, Bruce Pritchard's. He's going to send me I'm going to get a copy of a couple others. Really, when I see these things, I'm going to try to do something a little different. And I haven't seen enough to say how much different it's going to be, if that makes any sense to you.
For sure, yeah.
But I am going to try to do things where I'm sure other people are doing them. I want to, of course, talk about myself some, but that's not really first and foremost. I wanted also, I think I said to someone before too, I was talking to a guy named Jerry Bossick, who runs the old World Class organization there in Oklahoma, which I know he's trying really hard. Might have like someone like that on sometime. I want to have some fun with it too, and bring on people like Bruno, who was my first roommate, my first manager, my first friend in the business, and things like that, if I can talk him into it. And I want to do it where I don't want anything to be fabricated. I'm not going to explain myself a lot of times. Like, now, a lot of people don't realize this broadcast that me and you guys are doing tonight. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's the second time we tried this, because the first time we tried this, I asked y'all what Living on the Square was, and y'all didn't know. And when I told you, I guess your nerves got so messed up that you were so dumb acted, you both started vomiting, and you started vomiting until just today for being so stupid. It's almost like a Dave Chappelle comic deal. When the guys are so stupid, their heads explode. That's exactly what happened. Y'all would ask that question. So, guys, that's what. If anybody want to look at their podcast, that was a real deal one time for them. But no, really, want to just do that too. I want to have a little fun. I don't want people to think I'm always serious all the time, but I do want to have some fun at the same time, get across some things, and try to stay on the square with things.
For sure. I mean, we're going to give out the links when you guys launch, I believe, early September. So make sure everybody listening will tune into the Vicious Circle podcast for sure.
Rob from Canada, a friend of Steve Joyner's, is coming down this weekend. We're going to take the first 3 episodes.
Oh, great.
So it's already going to be, has started up this coming weekend.
Well, I remember reading to where you said you weren't so much a fan when you started wrestling, when you got into it, that you kind of, did it like any other job for the money, right? That you weren't maybe necessarily as passionate as other wrestlers. But can you tell us maybe how you decided to get into the sport?
I wasn't passionate. It's just I wasn't familiar with it, like a lot of people. No, I mean, when I go back to the guy that probably means the most to me in my career, Eddie Gilbert, he wrestled, his brother wrestled, his father wrestled. And I could see the passion to him like that. But I also developed a passion for just being around people like Eddie Gilbert, who was second generation. Robert Fuller, who was one of my first bookers, he was second generation. So it wouldn't I didn't have the passion, I just hadn't informed about it because I wasn't a fan of it. But to answer your question, how I got into it was I was dabbling with the USFL Football League, and then met Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo and Harley Davidson, who turned out to be Hillbilly Jim. And Tracy Smothers was a local guy there that all worked in the Memphis territory. And they seen me at the Coliseum one night with a promoter of a country music singer named Eddie Bond, who was locally in Memphis. And the guy was trying to scam me. And they said, hey, man, if you're interested in wrestling, get away from that guy, and we'll put you in touch with someone. And then they put me in touch with Tojo Yamamoto. And that's where I started going to wrestling school.
What are your thoughts on, the business today? Do you still watch professional wrestling today, or is it something you just kind of catch every now and then?
I have watched a little bit, and the reason is because, I was told that they were taking, resumes or applications for a writing team, and I heard some of the names thrown around. And so me and a friend of mine named Barry Norman, who's a writer, we linked our names together and sent it in. I actually had my attorney and their attorney. So they have it. So I have started watching some just in case they would, become interested in anything that we've talked about me in WWE over the last 4 or 5 years. And watching it is, it's not, we can easily say it's not what it used to be. Of course, the only wrestling I know that's on TV is WWE. And then I hear about this new organization that's going to be in the month of October, one on TNT or Turner Network on one of those channels. If you're interested in seeing that, of course, your answer probably what I'm watching. I'm not watching as much of it because it's changed a little bit itself. That's UFC changing from Fox to ESPN. It's a little harder to watch unless you get that ESPN Plus. And I am going actually tomorrow to set myself up. Well, I'll have the internet here. I've not had to use it before, so getting that, I might do the extra $5 to get ESPN, but it's not as as popular as it was a few years back either as well. Now I'm watching that now, a lot of baseball. I love baseball, I love college football, I love college basketball. So I keep in touch with it. And the thing is, this is something too I want to do in a podcast or it's just some type of format. Is I'm pretty good at calling these things. Like the year the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, I actually called it from the playoffs the year before. And I actually had a bet with 2 different people that, can say, yeah, he really said that. So that's going to be fun too. Is I'm pretty good at picking things on sports.
Nice.
Now I was wrong last year in college basketball. I think like the rest of America thinking Duke was going to do it, but they didn't do it.
We've all heard the stories of your, sports growing up. Is there anything, we are a wrestling, podcast. We talk a lot about wrestling, but what can you tell us about the sports you played growing up? And do you have any regrets not going further in those sports versus wrestling, or are you happy with kind of how everything worked out?
I'm happy with how things worked out, but no, man, if I said I had no regret, I'd be lying. It was, just the thing is, and I tell kids, I told my children this, especially my oldest son, when you're growing up and you're already tall and lean like that, you're going to be a late bloomer. So, first sport I was really decent. That was baseball, and then I really fell in love with that. Then as time went on, really fell for boxing, and then after that would be football, and then really as a late bloomer, I really enjoyed basketball. And what was happening was going through these growth spurts. Then say just the simplest thing is like adding running bleachers to your day really got me where I got to get vertical and things like that. I always had to get glide and vertical from just from elementary, just from whatever it was the day they had all those contests for kids. I can't think of the name of that, but I always excelled in those things. And when I went out for the Memphis Showboats to the USFL, that's three things that I really stood out was I had the longest broad jump, the highest vertical leap, and I think that set a record for bench best 225, 33 reps.
Wow.
So, and then I had a 4.842, and this was all at 330. So, that's pretty good. And that's what they judge you on. That's why I made it to the last cut with that football league, football team, just because of those three principles.
For sure, yeah.
But I would have liked to box. And I would have liked to. And one thing I really wish our state would have had was, freestyle wrestling. I really would have enjoyed that too. But I would have liked to probably play baseball, and I probably would have liked to, I don't know, it feels good to be heavyweight champion of the world in boxing.
Yeah, for sure. Sid, you dominated pretty much, it seems like, all sports growing up, but, a good friend of the show, Lanny Poffo, we know the story that I believe Randy Savage and Lanny talked you into doing it. Can you tell us how they convinced you maybe to leave all the other sports behind and join pro wrestling?
Well, what it was in that conversation when they saw me with that gentleman, that Bogus promoter, they were talking to me about it then. And what really was sealing the deal for me was, in football deal, I'd already been covering that team. The only future it looked like I had if I went to college and tried to get a couple of years under my belt for the NFL. And my wife was pregnant at the time, and the money they said that I would be making was going to be comparable to money that was offered in the NFL. And this was just, local wrestling like Memphis, where that was, pretty good to a kid that just came off a tractor off the farm. So, it was an easy decision to get into wrestling because I could do it in a shorter time frame. Absolutely. And that's why it sounds calculated and cold, but it was just business. It was a business decision really to give my family a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. As you've been in the business for a long time. You shared the locker room with just almost everybody. Some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. Were there, everyone wants to know about, kind of like who you got along with, who you didn't get along with. Were there anybody in the locker room that you were just excited to work with, and some that maybe you weren't so excited to work with?
Well, there was always a list of guys like you always enjoyed. For me, working with was Shawn Michaels, Sting, Vader. Bigelow was one of my favorite. Undertaker was fun to a degree, but that gimmick, it wasn't always a great match. And those guys like that. Then and the things like one of my best memories in a month's time, 8-man tag was me, Flair, and I think Arn and Harley Race against JYD, Lex, Sting, and forget the other partner. Maybe it was just a 6-man, but got to see Harley Race really do his stuff, and actually he really stole the show. It was a small venue, but him and JYD, and we know JYD be a great guy and everything. He's a horrible worker, and for for Harley to come up with a spot that perfectly for JYD is that spot where JYD would fall into his nutsack. But the timing of it maybe I don't think anyone had better timing or as good as timing as Harley Race. So those were fun times like that. As far as not really being locked in with anyone, I can't say, not really anyone particularly. Like I do remember, like what was a struggle for me to watch sometimes in the business was there was a lot of names. But I'll use one for like Disco Inferno, who was just a idiot. Where they would come to him. Arn, who was, in my opinion, one of the best finish guys in the business. When I first met Arn in WCW, I said to myself, this guy's got to run the business one day, or at least be the best finish man in the business. He had so many finishes that were so cool and so good, made sense and stuff like that. But I've seen people like Disco Inferno just mess up a finish by not wanting to participate the way it's supposed to be done. Say, instead of just doing a simple finish like Arn or somebody would suggest to him, he would say, well, can we bump the referee and bring it up? And just, I remember saying to him, just shut up and do what you're told.
Yeah.
So it's people like that really got to my skin, and then I think one of the most aggravating times in the locker room was when Perry Saturn came up to me, and there was a bunch of people in the locker room, and they were trying to sign this petition to get a union started or something started to get back Vince Russo and Ferraro back at booking, because when they were booking, people like Perry and those guys, Dean Malenko and and I can't think of even Disco Inferno, but some of those guys are great guys, Lenny and Lanny or something like that. I can't remember those guys, but they were good guys, but they were getting pushed. It didn't push really in the wrong way, but I remember them trying to sign a petition to get that done, and I took Perry, I said, man, you remember what happened to the last people that tried this? It was those Killer B guys, and they never got a job again. I said, now, get that out of my fucking face,
Yeah.
And so those are really only a few times and things like that. And there's probably a hand more of those that you just didn't want to witness. But for the most part, really, the locker room is a lot of fun. Everybody's laughing. I tell you, one of the funniest guys is Kevin Nash. It's always funny to watch, be at a television taping when he's there, especially when new guys show up. He's a lot funnier than anyone would ever imagine. And listen to him doing commentating for some of these things, it's just hysterical.
Now, Sid, you mentioned Harley Race. Unfortunately, recently he passed away. Do you have any other, maybe a fun story or something about Harley working with him?
Well, I got a chance to. He was doing and it really was a really well ran show when they had their own deal. Him and Axe, Kurt Henning's father, Axe Henning, whatever his real name was, and then. There was a bunch of people there. They had Greg Valentine, had a monster truck with his name on it. They were doing a series of television tapings and being around him for those tapings, and really got to understand the business side of him, because when Harley's a quiet guy, I first introduced him when he was managing Vader, so that's really when I first met him, remember seeing him. As world champion. To me, that's the only thing I could really remember about wrestling is him being really the world champion. So that's maybe why I levitate back to him or gravitate towards him. So, but now just being around him like that and then being that match with him, I can say I was in a match with Harley Race.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you are one of, if not the best big men in the business. Do you see yourself as one of the best as well, or do you kind of rank yourself somewhere else?
No, I mean, I would be stupid to say I didn't. And then this is the thing is, guys, and again, I'm not making any things up or stuff like that, but when you look at my career, even the beginning stages of it, even as Lord Humongous, I was put on in a position to draw a little money. Of course, it was Continental. And then my first run as Skyscrapers, we know that the tag teams really aren't the main throne in the business, but I think we did pretty well as a tag team. And then when I came back from my injury, of course, I came back from my lung surgery as a full horseman into some single stuff with, Sting in there. So then I'm legitimately what I consider being on top at that point. Then it just stays on top from Sid Justice and then back to Sid Vicious again in WCW, and then back on top of Psycho Sid and actually two Psycho Sids, one spelled with a P and one with an S. I won't go into all that right now, but stayed on top on those two deals, and then came back on top Sid Vicious and WCW before I finished my career. So I don't think many people, guys, can say they were on top almost their whole career. And that maybe might be what the difference to me is. Now, as far as big guys like the Giant and Elegante and Andre and the Big Show, those are novelties. They're not really, what's going to draw your houses every night for you. Mm-hmm. And that's a little bit of difference for me and those guys. I wasn't a novelty. I wasn't 7 foot. And then there was a lot of things that came with my package besides just appearance. I worked really hard on my interviews. I worked hard on making things believable in the ring and stuff like that. And it was really lucky. Had a lot of great dance partners to go with that career, and that helps too. And then being in the right place at the right time. So I think as far as people in this business, I think I've done as much as anyone has.
Oh, for sure. Now, Sid, you've been in the WCW and the WWE off and on and back and forth, it seemed. But did you like one over the other? And maybe who was more difficult to deal with, Vince or Eric Bischoff? What would you say?
Well, in both companies, I had different. In WCW, there was an array of different people that were in, like Vince's shoes. There, we had Dusty Rhodes, we had Ole Anderson, we had Eric Bischoff. We had Bill Watts. I was in talks with Bill Watts just a week or two before he finished up. I was coming back. WCW by far was the better company to work for. It was a real company, and they treated you like real people. Now the adventure to Vince was, really was an ego deal. It's pretty much stupid to go there the first time, leaving guaranteed money for a handshake. But I believed in myself enough to do that to where it did pay off. It working for Vince is working like almost like a carnival in comparison to WCW. And then as far as you got two different bosses, you got, I think Vince's, and I think it proves not just Vince, a lot of people, but I call them vindictive booking. Bookers mean they'll book things vindictively, even though it's not good for the business. Where Eric didn't do that. Eric was he was a cooler boss. It was easy for him to be a cooler boss, having Turner as the bankroll. But he definitely, of all people working for, is the coolest guy to work for. Now, I respected and enjoyed working with Ole Anderson as probably as much as anybody in the beginning, because he was a real good tool for me too to learn the business. And I thought I learned, I was learning a lot from him, but when it came down to it, really just learned really how to get heat, how to keep heat, and be credible. And then later on you learn things from like Pat Patterson, which not a lot of things, but him and Vince both taught me a lot of things, simple things. And with Vince, he just told me one time, and it stuck with me forever. He said, Sid, if it's negative, you just don't do it. So I try to remember that even in every little match or every spot that I get myself in. And that usually seems to work out. And that's what, I don't know if you guys are finding this out or what your situation is usually the simple things in this business are what works the best. Mm-hmm. And we can stick with the simple things and then dress them up really good. We'll probably have a pretty cool little deal.
You touched on this just a little bit, but you've talked about in interviews before that you felt like the only real mistake you made in your career was when you didn't sign with WCW in '99, which would have given you that huge lump sum right away. Do you ever think back like how different your career would have been if you had signed with WCW instead of WWE?
No, I really don't. I don't think of things like that because, again, I was a wrestling fan. I got into this business, so when I looked at it, I can't remember exactly how much I made that stint with Vince. It wasn't near as much as what he promised it would be like. I did get some really good payoffs, though. So I don't regret it. Again, I got to do something there I would have never got to do anywhere else, and that's really draw money. See what you're really responsible for. I mean, when you're put in that position there with that company, it really tests and says, okay, you're either this or you're not this. And more times than not, I think I was that, and when given the chance, to do it. I think the only time I failed in the WWE or the WWF was the time I came in for the first run, the Psycho Sid MVP. And I think everyone knows at that time I was term I use, I was on the whipping post. I had left Vince under my own conditions and didn't want to listen to any more lies. And actually I came back only under him calling me and bringing me in. So, it was, I knew what was ahead for me. But after that, I think that really what probably solidifies my career more than anything. That no one does that to Vince, and then comes back and gets on the whipping post, and then gets off. Literally worked myself off the whipping post to be world champion and sit at that time indoor tennis records every building I was going to every night. So to me, that makes me the biggest winner.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, there's been lots of talks in wrestling about money and guaranteed money, if you will. Lots of people credit Hall and Nash for getting guaranteed money in the business, but you have a story about how you also got guaranteed money. Can you tell us about how that came about?
Well, first of all, guaranteed money was first given by WCW, and they gave everybody guaranteed money just about, even though I think the minimum contract in WCW at one time was $104,000 a year. I think that comes to $2,000 a week. And so I think that was the minimum at one time. Now with Vince, when I came back to Psycho Sid the second time after a neck injury, and we'll go into the whole story, but I really was interested in coming back. I had taken a job working for an ag company out of Fresno, California called Custom Tenicides, and I hadn't told anyone that. And so Vince calls me, emergency, do a couple of shows. I do a couple of shows, and then I go to the pay-per-view thing too, and they said, man, we need to come back full-time. And I said, man, I can't come back full-time. And told them why. I just said, man, I said, Vince, things are good right now. You and I get along, but, as soon as I say something, and I will say something, it will aggravate you. And then I'm going to be on the whipping post again. And I said, wearing a dress, were not the exact words I said. I said, but now if you give me guaranteed money, I said, I could wear a dress every night and be happy with it. And he said to me, are you holding me up? I said, no, I'm not holding up. I'm just telling you how I feel safe. And then I think, because what he offered me the first was, well, we'll say guarantee you $500,000 a year, and then we'll pay you on a night deal. And at the end of the year, if you don't make 500, we'll write you one check, make enough for it. And I said, no, I'm not interested in that. So he ended up giving me the guarantee deal. And I think Vader, and I think Johnny B. Good or whatever, Mark Merrill had got guaranteed contracts, but they were on that one like he had offered me that night to night. At the end of the year, to make up for it. I don't think they were on like I was getting guaranteed money every week. I think that was the difference of the two types of contracts. And then I think he started offering people contracts after that, but they never, what Vince offered me 1 year, Eric offered me 4 times that in 1 year. He actually offered me in 1 year what Vince was offering me for 4 years. So that's the difference in pay scale.
Wow. Now, you obviously, one of the things that everyone remembers about Sid is the power bomb. And how did you decide that that's what you wanted as your finishing maneuver? And what makes a good power bomb? We see a lot of people do it, and I don't think that anybody has done a better power bomb than you.
Well, first off, it was given to me was by a guy named David. I think his wrestling name here in Memphis was Motley. And before I went to Continental, they had a little training school downtown Memphis. It was right down the street from the gym I was working out at. And so I'd go by there in the afternoons, knowing I was getting ready to go to Continental for my first real territory. And David said, hey, man, I've seen this finish called Power Bomb. And he showed it to me. And, first it wasn't one of those things that really just clicked in my head. But because I said, man, it could be awkward with heavier people, So when I went to Continental, I was suggested to use it, and Robert wanted me to use what they were using, Lord Humongous was using before, the Cobra Clutch and the Shamaki, whatever it's called. So I did that. I actually changed it up just a little bit. And then when Eddie Gilbert came in as a booker, he didn't know what finish I was using. So this is where I tell people that you have to be an opportunist, and that's one of the things that probably helped me get over more than anything was being an opportunist. And so I took the opportunity that night at Botwell Auditorium at the not the Fairgrounds, but the Botwell Auditorium Civic Center at Birmingham, where we changed venues to try to get that was their original venue that Continental was in. So we went there. I had my match that night, and I used the power bomb, and I heard someone in the front row said, that guy's dead. And then I knew I said, this is something I need to stick with.
Nice. All right, Sid, going back, I always read different stories about, wrestlers in time, and I understand you voluntarily quit the WWF at the time due to disagreements with Warrior and WWF management. Was there any reasoning behind that or anything you could tell us?
Well, it was just, I've already said 1,000 times, I'll say it real quick. What it was, I know it sort of stems back to leaving guaranteed money. And the agreement we had was, he asked me, here's the magic wand, what do you want? And I said, I want Hogan's spot. He said, it's yours. He said, what we're going to do with you for 1 year, you're just going to do TVs and pay-per-views, and that's it. And at WrestleMania, you'll win the world title, and you'll go into your first house show. Well, it wouldn't, it seemed like 2 days I was there, and I was already taking the Warriors' place. So things just went the wrong way from day one. And just, again, we get to WrestleMania, things were totally different the way they were supposed to be. So we were at the Royal Rumble, I guess it was, when they booed Hogan, and then we went into the hallway, and Hogan was screaming down the hallway, Vince, hey, you playing this, and blah, blah, blah. And really, that wasn't the icebreaker, but it was just enough to say, okay, I can't take this anymore. So I went into Vince's office, and which was just the locker room. I said, hey, man, listen, I want to shake your hand. Thanks for the opportunity. But I left it real simple. I said, I'm not ready for this place. And there's a million reasons I wasn't. But that was one, too, that I can't be somewhere where a grown man's going to cry about getting booed. That happens in this business, and that's silly to act like that. But it happens to all of us, especially when you're getting that much over. When you start coming down, you're going to get booed. And when you're already outmatched, and that's what the issues were, that he was just outmatched with me being in the ring with him, as far as popularity and two different characters. Yeah. And that was just that simple. And then so that was sort of it right there. And then he promised me, just to stay a little bit towards WrestleMania, and I stayed there for that. And then he said, okay, we're going to make the biggest heel of the business. And my first show being the biggest heel in the business was with the Ultimate Warrior at the Baltimore. And he says, Sid, I'm going to send you in, clothesline. You take the powder, and I'm going to shake the ropes. I said, no, Jim, you'll come in, I'll stop you. I'll send you off. You'll dunk my clothesline. You'll give me one clothesline, and then I'll take the powder. And he reached his hands up to the ceiling. It was a small little locker room. And the Ultimate Warrior says, I looked around, maybe like someone was filming me like this was a joke. So I went out in the hall, and then they wanted also to kick out of my finish. So, and then like a DQ or something like that, and you don't want that for a man bit. And it's already, everything's stunk about it. So I told Jack Lance, I said, is this shit real? This guy's in here talking to himself, and he's like, just in a bad spot himself, being in that spot. I said, you tell Vince this. I said, if this is the same fucking finish tomorrow night will be my last night. So you got 24 hours to fix this. So we got the Boston Gardens, same thing, and they can't reach Vince on the phone. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it because I'm here, and I don't want to not do it. So I'm going to do it. But when I go home tomorrow, don't you guys call me because I'm not going to answer. And that's exactly what happened. They tried to call him, and my wife called in and said, we're going to get out of this. Enough's enough. And I think that's fair, guys. This is the thing is, if everything was a lie from the beginning, this, who held that against me, still holds that against me today, just turns out, one or, better than myself, you shouldn't hate that. You didn't end up, hold up your end of the bargain, and I held up mine, and so I think it was fair for me to leave. And then, of course, I came back and did good business for him. So he has really nothing to complain about.
Well, I think this is what's great about the podcast too. Like, your Vicious Circle podcast and everything, it'll give you a chance to set things straight, because obviously with podcasts and everything, you get all different kinds of people telling all different kinds of things. So it's nice to hear, because to be honest, I haven't heard a lot of these stories that you're talking about until tonight. And, to hear your point of view is actually really, really nice. So, I hope
the thing is, guys, sometimes the truth is boring. Because I know this guy wrote a book called Why Am I So Fat.net, and one of the things he said is, when we're dieting, we'll get to a stage where we go, God, man, this is boring. Well, boring, you could probably reach out and touch perfect. And that's sort of been my lifestyle, is get up and do everything perfect all the time. I mean, boring, and then everything's pretty much perfect. But there, again, just when I told these guys summarize this story just now, that's 100% the truth. And not 1 second, 1 word added anything to it. I kept it to a point like the conversation was. Mm-hmm. Now, what's going to happen is if I say that, then somebody else is going to say, well, no, that's not exactly how it happened. Someone like Bruce Pritchard will say that this incident happened in another city because he doesn't know anything. And that's what another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to bring some of these people in their podcast, their statements to bring some facts to them. So I'm going to help people tell the truth. And that's one of the things I really look forward to do.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Sid. Thank you, for sharing your stories too with us. Well,
two guys is, again, we joke a little bit about you vomiting, not knowing really know the stories. That is a little bit scary for me. But now, what's more scary is that I think I talked to you guys or someone else is that what the information is out there for you guys to pick up on, and then maybe where you guys don't get blinded by the big lights of TV and stuff. You can look at results of the house shows. Everybody looks at the ratings, but sometimes the ratings are misleading. When we were beating WCW was beating WWF ratings, we were still outdrawing them 100-1, maybe 1,000-1 sometimes. But again, ratings can just be misleading. Also, when you see that TV and everything looks good, and you look at the results in the houses, they go, "Wow, there's no one there. There were anybody at the TV," so they had to bring everybody to one side where it looked like people were there.
Yeah,
that gives you the guys that can't be there every night, or like you guys are learning things as you go along. Those are things that can give you a little insight for yourselves. Go, well, they're pushing this guy, but man, nothing really happened. So what they're saying about him online isn't really that true. Like I go back to this sort of funny that Dr. Moore kid, he works really hard walking to the ring and spewing slobber from his mouthpiece, but that doesn't sell tickets. It's a great, he's flexible and he does that in his intro. But man, I just don't know.
Another person that really was somewhat controversial during his time in the WWF, WWE was Shawn Michaels. And you worked with Shawn Michaels a lot. He's regarded as one of the best of all time. What were your thoughts? I know that a lot of people had said that he wasn't always easy to deal with. What were your run-ins with Shawn like?
It was never a day that was not easy to work with Shawn. Now, I've said this story, and it's not like I'm picking on Brett, but this is one I can go back to, and I seem to go back to it all the time, is that, when Brett came in back on that, I guess his new contract, and I guess I didn't know this, but he says in interviews that he had creative control. And if he did have that, then I would understand why he would say things like this. But I feel like some of the first three-way matches, triple threat matches that came out was me, Brett, and Shawn. And I remember Brett sort of pulling the Ultimate Warrior when Shawn asked him about doing a spot. I was like, well, I don't know if that's good for Brett to hit me on Hart. And I was thinking, no, this isn't fucking happening again. And then so, Shawn just looked at me, and I looked at him, and we go, okay, we remember the things me and him did, and we pretty much went out there to let Brett look stupid, So now that Brett might say that about Shawn that night, but then I was there personally, and I knew that Brett was being the one hard to deal with. But I don't remember having a hard time dealing with Shawn.
We're based out of Poughkeepsie, New York, and speaking of Shawn Michaels, you also had a very historic moment at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center where you actually turned on Shawn Michaels. What can you tell us about that moment, or do you remember any other special moments from Poughkeepsie, New York?
I remember a lot of things about Poughkeepsie. Most of the things I remember are the house shows and coming out with 4 foot of snow out and a fan walking me to a car. That's what I remember the most about Poughkeepsie. But that night, I do remember, this is again where I say, I was an opportunist in the business. We go out to do that live spiel about, we knew that thing changed pretty quick too. And this is what happened. I was going to be his bodyguard and supposed to be his bodyguard for a while. But after the first night at WrestleMania, was in New Haven, Connecticut, I think it was, where they chanted my name the whole time when I was on the floor. I think they said, okay, we're fighting against the grain and I'm on the whipping post. So let's go ahead and start this deal faster than we needed to. So they, just from that pay-per-view to the next day, changed their whole mind on that. So wanted me to turn heel, which I was already heel, so wanted me turning at Shawn. So I remember what was going to happen, and then I remember Shawn said what he was going to say, and then he said about respect, and then I used that to my advantage, and I think I said something about, no, you little geeky, all you're going to give me is respect. And so that's how that's how I got over in business, is just saying what I needed to say and do what I needed to do. And Shawn was always one of those people who let me do that. And so that's why I don't have anything, I can't remember a negative moment with Shawn.
Sure. Now, you said, you remind me, I think you might have been told this at one point too, you and Steve Austin, to where you kind of had similar outfits with the leather, the black, yet you were the bad guy, but then you were also cheered up here in the Northeast. What are your thoughts about Steve Austin coming out later on after your career, kind of?
Well, this is the thing is, guys, and I'm not trying to beat this to death either, but before I got there, and when I was there before I hurt my neck and took that time off of my injury, Steve Austin was still there. He was also there, but he's wearing that fake diamond belt, and that's what he was wearing when I came back. And just, the next day I look up, he's wearing the same thing I'm wearing. Not that was anything wrong with that. But now this is the truth about this. Now, until I came back, guys, that company, I've said this, I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but people were going, months without getting paid there. So when I came back, it's the first time they had people show up to venues. So, now this is the thing, and this is the truth about our business, is that Steve Austin got over by association. So it's a lot easier to get over when the building's full. But if you're not the one putting the people out there, he wasn't, I was, it's easy then, for him to carry it on after that. But, he's not the one that started that momentum for WWF.
That's right.
And that's all well documented by numbers that I'm sure they still hold in their records.
Yeah.
It proves, till I get back to that one pay-per-view in Vancouver, even the house shows I was taking over there was place on were, sporadically, and I remember one of the ones I did his place on was, and I remember Martin Merrill, when his first shows there, is that boxing gimmick, we were in just a high school. So from the moment I got there, we went from high schools back to major venues, and Austin didn't do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is, I think sometimes people remember what they want to remember, and
right.
And that's how this kind of business works. But I know we're jumping around a little bit, but I just want to. You knew it was probably coming, but I have to ask this. I remember watching the night that you in WCW you broke your leg. It was very difficult to watch, and I'm wondering, have you actually watched it? And also, that was a little, as far as I was concerned, it was a little uncharacteristic of you jumping off the top rope. You usually were more on, you're grounded. So I just didn't know how that all came about.
Well, this is what happened. First of all, I'll go into the story again. Johnny Ace or Johnny Laurinaitis said, I don't know how, but I'd been off for a couple months from shoulder surgery. This is when the company, when they send an accountant in to take over Eric Bischoff's place, they're about to sell. That's a sure sign of it. So I guess somewhere in between my shoulder surgery, Eric Bischoff was out again, and they let Johnny Laurinaitis take over as a booker or something. And of course, this is how stupid people could be. They think that right there, of course, Scott Steiner probably took the best boot running into someone that ever took one in the business. And that's what we were playing. And Johnny wanted to do a Japanese spot with me coming off the second rope with the high knee, which I was uncomfortable with from the beginning. And even Scott was uncomfortable with it too, because we both had never done it. And I don't ever suggest, and this is a rule of thumb, to ever do anything like that on live TV for your first time. So I went back to Johnny a couple of times trying to change something so simple. And he wanted to think that was going to save the business, So instead of trying to I should have just stood my ground with the guy, but knowing that, he's not that smart, and that's not going to save anything, and that's not going to be that's not going to be a deal breaker. So, but I went ahead and did it anyway, and the results are what they are.
Oh, it was just painful to watch.
Yeah, the only thing I can come out of that positively, even though I did that on his decision making earlier in our careers, I did break his nose one time, with a clothesline. So, and I thought I was going to get a chance to break his brother's nose because they got all hot about it. And I said, well, they said something to keep people breaking noses, someone might try to break yours. I said, well, if anyone wants to, they could try it right now. He didn't jump up to try.
Oh, man.
Of course, he would have to jump up, be an animal. He's so short. He'd have to jump up to try to break my nose. But I would beat the shit out of him and his brother both at the same time.
I couldn't imagine being in the locker room and having not want to start anything with you, Sid. Like, you'd be the last guy on the list to try to start anything with. But, with a lot of companies starting about, pro wrestling's in a boom period, if it ever was. With AEW, All Elite Wrestling starting, many people are questioning this move by Vince McMahon to where he recently rehired Bruce Pritchard. He brought in Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff now to kind of produce Raw and SmackDown. Do you feel that this was probably a strategic move to lock them up as so to keep them away from the new promotion happening with AEW? Or what are your thoughts with that possibly?
At first I didn't think about that either. You guys asked me that the other night, right before or after you puked, or somebody else asked me that. I think there has to be the what you said, the latter of the two. That it had to be a strategic move because it would have made I would have thought it would really help that other company because it would have automatically established their first TV out that this is almost Monday Nitro. You know what I mean? And this is a group of people that would be now. I talked to Paul Willett out of Montreal. We were talking, and I guess there's two companies having pretty good success at first, but because they're doing without TV, and once they do TV, then their stars are going to explode like Dustin Rhodes and his brother and the other people that been released from Vince. And when we rehash somebody or refurbish, what the word is used mostly, you never get. Most of the time, I can't even think of myself other than one time as a Psycho Sid with the S-Way. Actually, I was refurbished and did better. And the reason that wasn't because I had been held back the first time. So these guys haven't been held back, and they all were pretty much, not doing positive things at the time they were last, in the business. So I don't see where I don't hear it's already helping. I don't hear the ratings jump into where it helped them already with Eric being with that company. What the other company should have. The other company could have just been, the guys there could be already making bad decisions, saying, okay, just don't hire Eric. Let's just say hypothetically that, that Rhodes kid or whoever out here is in charge, they say Chris Jericho and stuff. But they don't want someone to come in that actually has really good ideas because then they're going to smarten this new company up to, Dustin Rhodes was gold-dust because he wasn't a big money draw. And we let the other kid go because he wasn't a big money draw either. And you guys are having success because there's a need for something new right now. But I think, and a few people I've talked to, I said, believe the same thing. Once you put that product on TV, even though Vince's product is not that great, I think it will expose them.
We've talked a lot about your career. We've talked about how you've been in WCW, WWF, and all the, early promotions. You had some historic career highlights. You were in the Four Horsemen. You were also in other, factions. I know that during your time in WCW, the big NWO was running wild. Were there any talks of you being included into the NWO or anything like that?
No, there wasn't. Honestly, I don't even. Of course, I hung out and talked to Kevin all the time. I think they realized too that NWO thing had run its course, and really, I think if I would win in NWO, it wouldn't have helped the NWO. It wouldn't hurt me. But again, for me, guys, I think when the people were smart using me, they used me as an entity by myself, not with a group of people. Like the one time I was with the $1 Million group of people with Ted DiBiase, that was sort of one of the silliest moments of my life. But
Yeah.
I just don't see myself with. Matter of fact, I had an opportunity, and if it had been anyone I would actually would have had fun doing something with been Randy Savage, and they wanted me to do the Team Madness, and I was, and one of the reasons I think is I learned ways, but I didn't want any female attached to me like that in the business, because that to me is just it just doesn't look good. And then I just don't. Again, at that point in my career, I've been pretty much a single entity in my life. I didn't see any need for change.
The internet went into kind of a frenzy a few weeks back in regards to the Raw reunion, because I believe it was being reported that you were supposed to be on the show for the event. But can you tell us what happened? Because I remember when I talked to you the other day, this is the whole point of hearing the other person's side, if you will, instead of just saying Sid didn't show up or whatnot. But what happened in regards to the whole Raw reunion with you?
Okay, well, just so happens that week, my aunt, her name is Joyce Good, she passed away a few years ago. She started the first AIDS clinic in the state of Florida called Comprehensive Healthcare in Melbourne, Florida / Unconditional Love. She named that because of her age. Well, a couple of years ago, or just they had added another wing to her clinic. It's called the Joyce Good Center. I've been so busy, I hadn't had a chance to get down there, so I'd gone down to see the clinic and the new wing. And I was just so down there when I was there. That's when they were wanting me to come to for that Raw reunion. Well, here back home, there was the hurricane going on. I couldn't really get home, come through that storm. And so when I got here, I can't remember the guy's name, a really nice guy I was talking to. And I just told him I just didn't have enough time to prepare myself for it, how I appreciated the offer. And if they needed something in the future, I'd be willing to listen to it. That's as simple, and that's the one answer.
Exactly.
People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Now, this is what I heard, even I guess this had to come from them, that it was a family issue. This is what bothers me. That's why I should have never said, this is why I don't like explaining myself. First of all, my aunt means more to me probably than almost any other family member in my life. And so actually they caught me on the phone as I was taking the tour. And the only time I could take the tour of the clinic of the new wing was at lunchtime, because that's when the patients aren't there. And one of her things was giving them total privacy. So, I had that, 45 minutes to get in and get out. So they called me during that 45 minutes of touring her wing. So, again, I was trying to get off the phone and be nice at the same time, but that was the conversation. It wasn't any more, nothing less than that. But then I hear that, their response, because I guess they advertised me before talking to me, that it was a family issue. It wasn't a family issue. It was, they should have just said it was their issue because they didn't contact me in time. If they were, like most people, maybe a week or 2 weeks, you say, I don't maybe take that trip until afterwards. Because really it was in I think the television taping was Tampa. So I wouldn't have been that far of over, but I was already gone before the taping. I was already back home a few days before the film. I just couldn't get myself there that quick. So that's all they should have said is that, hey, you know what? We just should have maybe planned it better than we did. Instead of that, they put the heat to me and my family, which that really aggravates me. Yeah. Because it wasn't my aunt's fault. It wasn't her clinic's fault. It wasn't they going to see their, the clinic's fault. It was their fault for waiting to the last minute. So again, you got a simple answer, and sometimes simple just isn't fun, or it's not exciting to listen to. But and that's why I've never used my family for an excuse for anything.
No, for sure. Well, it's the truth. That's what people need to hear. Sometimes they just want to make up their own stories. Yeah.
This is right, and then you guys know too. When we were trying to take the show, the other thing, other than you guys throwing up for being so stupid, I had that grandkid of mine who was giving me fits that night. And he threw it in my ear right before you guys called. So that throw up thing just went right over to him too.
Well, it's good. I guess it's got to feel good to you that many people wanted to see you on WWE Raw. And I'm to that point. I think that it's a matter of time before you're inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. But my question to you is, when that day comes, whenever it comes knocking, And I'm sure you're going to ask Steve and I to do the induction, but if we're not available, who would you like to induct you into the Hall of Fame?
Guys, this is something, again, y'all have been around long enough. I haven't done. I've declined the offer for the Hall of Fame. And the reason being is because I had a chance to come back after my leg break. I was still in pretty good shape to have done something and actually, trying to not create any trouble from, going back or trying to start a new beginning. I was using my attorney, who I still use, and he actually called them and tried to talk to them about me coming back. And Laurinaitis, just being a pure fucking dick, was telling him, we're not going to talk to you. We only want to talk to Sid. And he's just trying to explain to him that Sid doesn't want to get started on the wrong foot. And that way, if he has a buffer, he can't say things that he would like to say to y'all or might say. And so just that alone, not giving me a chance to close up my career, I would be ever interested in that. And that's on them. That's not on me.
Yeah.
And the fans should, the fans can, I would love to do it for the fans and things like that. But, you're not going to, get mad at me because I, maybe they use the word I stepped on them before or I'm hard to deal with or something like that. Well, if you want to take that little bit from me that I was willing to offer, and the offer was real simple, that I wanted to come back and give everything I had, and I mean everything. And really, to do that, you have to be on the whipping post to a point. And that means beat me as many times as you can and all that too. And that's part of the business that we sign up for. So if they weren't willing to, take that from me, then I'm not willing. I don't think I'm worthy of it. I think if I could have finished my career, I think I would have been worthy. I don't want to be one of these Rock and Roll Express inductees. You know what I mean?
Yep.
To where I didn't really deserve it. So at my point, I didn't really deserve it because I didn't really get the fans what I think I should have gave them.
Now, I love talking to you tonight, Sid. A lot of great advice, and I would love to see you possibly even coaching some of the future wrestlers of tomorrow. But if you had to give any advice for anybody trying to get into the wrestling business today, what would be maybe the best advice from you?
Man, I don't know. The simple things are just, really the simple things you hear in life in the beginning is keep your mouth shut, your ears open, just listen, and like some of the lessons I'll give you a funny one I learned in softball was I was being ragged by a team after hitting home run, and of course, so here we had another one. I hit the second one, rounding first base, trying to show off a little bit. I went to high five my coach, and the base slid out from me underneath me, and I slid and fell, and right in front of them. So they were like standing on top of me, laughing at me. So I learned from that right there. You don't laugh or brag or make fun of someone until after you've already won. You know what I mean? So in wrestling, wait till you're done with your career, before you start to make any bad decisions. And also don't do it the way I did it. Try to be more diplomatic. Because then not everybody's going to be me. You know what I mean? And I think the business would be glad not to see another me. Because I was hard to deal with. But one is just be a hard worker, work hard. And I've seen on Bison about some kid from Atlanta they were pushing him like to be a next big star. I can't remember his name right now, but do things that kid's doing. Make all your shows. Be grateful and be gracious at the same time. And, respect the locker room. And even if I never had a beef with anybody, but there's sort of been, I guess, a built one in between me and Flair. But even with Flair, who really everybody had probably some reason not to like the guy, but I always greet him as, "Hey champ, how you doing?" Give him respect, and I'm gonna get out beating up an old man, right? So just be grateful, like your prayer book says. Sometimes let someone go in line in front of you. Tell someone they're having a good day. Say something nice to them, and do those things, and maybe you'll turn out all right.
Well, we want to thank the man, the master, the ruler of the world. Sid, we cannot thank you enough for coming on tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We wish you nothing but success, and we can't wait to hear the Vicious Circle. Anything else you want to talk about before you go?
I'm just going to say real quick, I'm going to say the easy call for the World Series is going to be the Dodgers and the Astros, and I'm going to take the Astros for the World Series.
Perfect. Well, Sid, thank you so much, man. We appreciate it, and we'll get everybody. We'll put out the links for when the Vicious Circle podcast comes out. Thanks again so much.
Okay, thank you guys too.
Thanks again to Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. Make sure you tune into his Vicious Circle podcast. But guys, before we brought the guests back, what we did without guests, we talked about what was happening the week that was, or just the biggest headlines of what was going on, and just to get back into it, guys. Some of the stuff that's been happening lately, one of the things that I love is the King of the Ring is back. I still feel it should be a standalone pay-per-view, but I don't mind this tournament style where they drag it out for a few weeks, but I'm happy the King of the Ring's back. Some of my picks have already been eliminated, but what do you guys think about the King of the Ring?
I think they've had some great matches, and there's been some great building of certain guys leading up to these matches, prior to the tournament. Like, who didn't love Cedric Alexander versus Drew McIntyre a few weeks back? It was a fucking classic. I haven't seen anything that exciting on Raw in God knows how long. And then you follow it up, I think it was the next week, Daniel Bryan versus Buddy Murphy. And Buddy Murphy getting the win? Are you kidding me?
He's getting pushed to the sky.
I loved it, but it seems like it was all for naught. Why would you have him knock off one of the top guys in WWE only to get bounced out of the first round the next week by fucking Mustafa Ali? Go hard. Shut the fuck up.
I'm okay with Mustafa Ali advancing, but Buddy Murphy needed to advance too. Here's my pros and cons about this right now. My pros is that some of the matchups are great. Like, we're getting some great matchups, but also some of the matchups are just happening too soon. Like, I would have rather, a lot of people had Drew McIntyre winning this whole thing. It would have been good to see Ricochet and Drew McIntyre on two separate sides of the Raw bracket so they can meet into the finals of the Raw. Another thing, what are they wrestling for? Like, what is the goal? Like, the number one contendership? What are we wrestling for? Is it just to wear a crown that looks like a bedazzled Burger King crown?
I hate how they keep trying to get everybody to sit next to that too. I'm like, put the crown on, hold the scepter.
Now we're gonna have a king gimmick, another one like that. That's my only thing. But other than that, like, I agree with Cooter, where like you give a guy like Buddy Murphy, who's my sleeper pick by the way, the biggest win of his career. And next thing you know, the following week he loses clean to Mustafa Ali. And I'm not complaining about Mustafa Ali because he's one of the younger guys that's getting a push and deserves it. But it just didn't make sense to me at this time. It didn't.
No, to go back with the whole King of the Ring, what did they get? Even going back for Austin, where Steve Austin was never King Austin or anything like that, and that's what I didn't mind about it. Like, I hate that they need this. I don't mind the chair, I don't mind the crown for the night, but like the whole scepter fucking thing, stop with that. Like, if it turns somebody into like King Cesaro or King Ricochet or whatever, that's fine for a little bit. I mean, don't go crazy like you had with King Barrett. That was stupid. I didn't really care.
That drove me nuts, Credo.
I know.
He had a great fucking gimmick.
And they ruined
the whole
yeah.
Bad News Barrett thing.
Yep.
And I'm afraid I got some bad news. Just for him to turn into a fucking douchebag with a fucking scepter and a crown up his ass.
I know.
I think the only person that played off that King gimmick well, and he didn't even wear like the crown or use the scepter, but he did sit in the throne, was William Regal when he was the Raw GM and ended up winning the King of the Ring. That he was at his best before he got popped for steroids. But let me ask you guys this question.
You didn't like King Mabel?
Oh, I forgot about King Mabel. What about King Badass Billy Gunn? Holy shit, that's another one we forgot about. But let me ask you guys this question. If the pencil was in your hand, what would you make as the gimmick at the end of the tournament? Like, what does the winner of the King of the Ring tournament get other than being the King of the Ring? What would you do to make it interesting?
It should be a title shot. It should be a number one contendership. Maybe pick what title you want, whether it's a WWE Championship or the Universal nowadays. I like that they can put themselves on par with all these other tournaments. Like, the King of the Ring should be the tournament for WWE. I love the great matches out of it, but yeah, not the crown, just like maybe just a title shot, but something more. Maybe like their own pay-per-view where they get to book all the matches. I don't know.
See, I liked how they did it back in, I think it was like 2002, where like the winner got the #1 contendership at SummerSlam, and that was like the last year they did it when Brock Lesnar got the #1 contendership. I would just make it the winner is the #1 contender at the Royal Rumble. And you have this amount of time from now until the Royal Rumble to build up that contender. And he could choose whatever title he wants at the to wrestle for at the Rumble. That's what I would do.
I like it.
To me, that's all, fine and dandy. But I think if you're going to have them choose what title, you have to stay fucking with this brand split. It's just getting too fucking confusing. Though I will say, the last few weeks, it seems like, and I could be wrong, and maybe I just haven't noticed, or maybe I don't even remember who's on what show anymore, but it seems like a lot of the SmackDown guys are staying put on SmackDown. Like, you don't see Roman on Raw the last couple of weeks. You don't see Daniel Bryan, and I could be wrong. I haven't noticed. But
no, there's SmackDown. There hasn't been Roman, but Bailey was on Raw.
Lacey Evans,
week.
Yeah, she was.
Lacey Evans was on SmackDown.
Right.
I think
it's a
it's
little more
gone.
subtle to me, though. I don't know, and I noticed that there were a couple of the tag guys in there for the tag.
The Revival and Orton have been bouncing back and forth.
That's true too.
Yeah, it's the brand split is. It's this whole wild card thing has just become so confusing that I've lost count.
Yeah.
I used to keep count because they said only 4 guys going back and forth. I lost count. One episode of Raw, there was like 6 SmackDown people, and that's when I just gave up on counting.
Well, if that's the thing, then, and you're not going to stay true to the brand split, I think we need to start consolidating some of these titles because it's getting ridiculous. Why do we need 2 world champions? Why do we need to? If they're not on separate brands, what's the fucking point?
But either way, man, King of the Ring is back. How about the biggest thing that's happened too? One of the things is the Fiend. Bray Wyatt is back. It's Bray Wyatt 2.0 pretty much. He has like newer music, but it's the same song. He still comes out with the lantern. Now it's just his head, or what? You know what I mean? Like it's different. It's like Mankind meets Gangrel meets Bray Wyatt. So I like it. I don't hate it. I like it. I gotta see it in the long term because I mean he just appears, it's the new Undertaker appearing whenever he wants to, kind of a thing. A lot of people saying it's not for the PG era. Well, we're not really in the PG era anymore, so I don't know, man. I like it. It's different. I want to see more, but at the same time, what did you guys think? I mean, I loved everything about his debut. There's nothing I hate about it.
I loved the build up for it, and then that lantern was just crazy. It was just his head and his mouth wide open. That lantern was badass. I thought the entrance was badass. I thought just that re-debut was badass. And I loved what they're doing right now where, like, that's the type of gimmick where you don't have to see on TV every day. You don't. Once in a while he could pop up. I don't want to see him wrestling on Raw. He's strictly what Brock Lesnar He gets the Brock Lesnar deal in a way. Like, he could pop up on Raw every now and then, but when he wrestles, it really should matter.
Speaking of Brock Lesnar, I mean, and I hate to get off topic because Fiend really debuted at SummerSlam. SummerSlam altogether this summer was great. I mean, Brock Lesnar and fucking Seth Rollins' match alone was worth sitting through that entire ordeal. Yep. And I think that's probably, at least, if not the best, the second best match that Brock has had since his return how many years ago. And it was like they're just on the same page. They trusted each other, and they fucking delivered. So for people to say that Brock, isn't what he used to be, he's not as good as a wrestler, he really is. You got to work with him, and I think he'll work with you, man. I'm telling you.
So, yeah, a lot of good things. But how about some of the stuff that I think still will work? Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch engaged now. I feel like they just said they started dating, and now it's like 3 weeks later they're engaged. It's a work, my friend. I feel this is the...
My man Seth Rollins, man, he's a hopeless romantic, I guess. Motherfucker gets put a ring on it within like 4 months.
He's a sucker for love, and he loves the fire crotch, ladies and gentlemen. There we go.
WWE found out that they're dating, so they're like, oh, let's work it into the damn show. They work it into the show. Now they're like, oh, let's make them engaged. I feel like we're gonna get to that wedding, and they're gonna get everybody. They're gonna have a wedding, and something's gonna happen on it. Braun Strowman's gonna show up or some shit. I feel like we're being worked. I feel like it's not real
the
still.
wedding's gonna be on the debut episode of SmackDown on Fox.
I'm saying, like,
God.
Saying, I've been known to know that wrestling engagements and weddings are not what they seem to be, and I feel like this is like a Paul Heyman work. I don't know.
What did you guys think of the week that Graves was gone? Because they had Vic Joseph on there after Lawler got
Vic
attacked.
Joseph is fucking amazing.
He has turned me. I know I said it a few months back. Holy God. And Renee sounded great with him.
They had some great fucking chemistry. That three-man booth had so much good chemistry.
And I listened to your boy there because you got me on the Busted Open tip. Bully's talking about how was it Bully was saying out, or maybe it was Henry. I don't know who did that episode, but it was like sometimes you feel like maybe Corey's kind of holding their back, or maybe
I think that was
right about a spot, dude.
He's not on SmackDown too, is he, Corey?
Yeah,
they need to just split it. Like, put him on one show. He doesn't need to be the voice of fucking every show.
I want him on SmackDown because I like him with Phillips and Saxon because he always worked well with them since NXT.
After listening to Vic Joseph on Raw, I think that he's the next voice of Monday Night Raw, the future voice.
And you know why?
Why?
Did you notice Michael Cole letting him do the play-by-play?
Yep. Exactly.
Cole never let anybody do play-by-play over him, and Cole just laid back and did what.
Cole wants an exit plan. He's done. Well, regardless, guys, that's some of the biggest things going on. But I think the biggest thing is what we really need to get into, and it's the competition, man. Before there was AEW and NXT, the new Wednesday Night Wars, as the interwebs are calling it. But guys, go back a little bit. Let's talk briefly about WCW and WWE. We grew up in that. We watched it. We lived it. That was great competition because it had you glued to your seats. You were flipping back and forth to the channels. Do you think this is what it's going to turn into, like a WCW, WWE thing?
I think it will. I think it really will. I mean, NXT. Now, I would say this. If it was AEW going against Raw or the main roster, I would be leaning more towards AEW.
You're crazy.
I would be leaning more towards AEW because I'm curious to see what they have to offer. So I would be leaning towards it. But
why?
Okay, but let me get to where I'm talking. Because of the curiosity factor, because I'm actually invested into the product, because I actually enjoy it, because I watch the build-up shows every week, and that I actually enjoy the product. However, I am a bigger NXT fan more than anything. NXT, what made me fall in love with wrestling all over again when I had lost faith in it because of how the main roster has been booked. So when it comes to these Wednesday Night Wars, I'm probably going to be choosing NXT as much as the curiosity factor is with AEW. However, NXT, the WWE, they kind of, in my opinion, they kind of screwed up in a way, meaning by they're going to air NXT on Wednesday, but then they're also going to air it again on the network on Thursday. So now you're giving the viewers options to be like, hey, well, if they're going to air it on Thursday,
why tune in?
Then why tune in on Wednesday when I could just watch AEW on Wednesday and then watch NXT on Thursday?
You ever hear a DVR? I mean, I could DVR any of those shows and fucking watch them the next day,
but
too.
That's you.
That's anybody. Anybody who has cable can fucking do that.
But that's you. But like other people are going to be like, well, I'm going to have the curiosity factor. Just because you're not invested in AEW
that's not what I'm
doesn't
saying.
mean
You're putting words in my mouth, and you don't.
But hear me out on this. What I'm trying to say is just because you're not as into it as everybody else is, they have that curiosity factor to see what's going to happen. What are they going to show us? So like when you're giving me an option, be like, I can watch NXT on Thursday rather than Wednesday, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to watch AEW on Wednesday and then tune in on Thursday to NXT. Those are some people's mentalities.
I did want to bring up why couldn't TNA could even do this kind of thing, because if you go back to that though, they were on Spike, they had a great TV deal, but they couldn't compete with WWE at that time. And then, it was different nights, but still, they had no competition. Why would AEW, granted, okay, you have the Bucks, you have Omega, you have Cody, but okay, now you got John Moxley, who can't even appear probably for a few months now with that MRSA, so that's like a shot to the leg for them. But yeah, I mean, it's like when they came out with All Elite, I thought they were just going to get the best of the best, and they really just kind of like filled the gaps of
best of the leftovers. Until you start seeing guys leave, there's nothing about this roster that really makes me want to tune in. I'll be honest with you, because outside of the Lucha Brothers, what tag team in AEW do you want to see the Young Bucks wrestle? I'll wait.
I'm going to tune in to see these unknowns because I want to see what these unknowns are going to do. And when it comes to the talent on the main roster, I'm not taking away anything from that damn talent because they have fucking some of the best talent in the world that is not used properly.
Well, going on that, Mike, too, is that AEW is not working under like Vince McMahon to where, I mean, we just saw it in the past few shows too with the blood factor, if you will. It's like if they just do everything that WWE can't do, they're going to be that good alternative to where if people want to see blood, they'll watch that. If people want to see, certain storylines that I guess WWE strays away from, that's I think the only thing they really need to do because now people are afraid of NXT going to USA for that whole factor of that. Is Vince going to be, watching it now or in control of it? Are they going to change NXT? Is USA going to change NXT to where? What if they don't get it? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to put? Well, what if like some USA executives like? I don't get this. Where's John Cena or where's Roman? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's something that silly, almost like the guys in Saudi Arabia fucking wanting to bring back a Warrior and other wrestlers who are dead they don't even know about for their greatest Royal Rumble. Is it to that extent to where USA just like, do they get what NXT is, or are we going to see a lot of too many cooks in the kitchen, if you will, changing it? Will NXT even resemble what NXT was? That we know, that we loved about it, you know what I mean? So that's what, it's still a worry factor, if you will. Triple H said it's not going to happen, but I'm saying, man, you're on network TV now, things have to change. How are they going to change, and who's going to want to change them?
I think you're going to get more of the same from NXT because of that blueprint. When you look at the product, you have younger guys doing some, enhancement talent matches, which I think is necessary, which is something that I haven't seen out of any of the shows in AEW. Everything had to be like a 20-minute drag out. It was like, it's just too much for me. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Adam Hangman Page is challenging Chris Jericho for their title. Who did he face in his last match at that what was it, the benefit show? Yeah. It was like a 20 some odd minute match with a virtual unknown, and if he can't beat that guy convincingly, how is he supposed to go up against somebody like a Chris Jericho and it be convincing?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about the storytelling. It doesn't always have to be about, every match has to be fucking like, it seems like some of these guys should be just there to be getting their ass kicked, and they're not.
Well, not for nothing, like, and I don't expect you to know who the guy was who he wrestled, but he wasn't an unknown. And that it's one of their big indie guys that are making a name for himself. And then you shrug your head and put it down, but I'm just telling you what it is.
Just
it's one of the younger
point,
talent.
That's okay.
I'm just saying. And that
to the indie guys, yeah, sure. But you're talking about drawing in fucking, random viewers, If he's not beating somebody that the casual fan doesn't know, and how is he supposed to be the face of your company?
But who is he in the ring against?
Coming
all out.
Exactly my point. I have no idea who that guy is.
Chris Jericho?
Not Chris Jericho. The guy that Page fought prior.
I'm not talking about that.
That's what I'm talking about.
You want to bring in casual fans. Now's the time where they're striking with a Chris Jericho.
What's going to be interesting about this, too, is that NXT is now going to be on USA for 2 hours. And I know we always talked about, like Raw 3 hours and SmackDown 2 hours. Now you have 3 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. It's another 2-hour show. Was NXT good as a 1-hour show, though? I mean, like, it was just enough in an hour, but now they're going to have to do 2 hours every week. It's not pre-taped. It's live. That was another good thing about it, to where they could tape a bunch of shows and just, spread it out through the month. But now every week they're going to be live in 2 hours. How do you feel about that, though? Do you think it'll help them or hurt them?
I'm a little nervous, only because of the fact that it's USA, and it's, once it starts building up momentum, if Vince McMahon takes control over it, he's going to want to be a part of this too. obviously he's going to be one a part of this war. He's not going to go out without doing anything. But going from 1 hour to 2 hours, they do have the roster that they can do it with. It's just how they do it. And if they stay with the same format, then they will be successful. But as you said before, with USA, they might not get it as we get it. They might not look at it that way. They might see a Full Sail crowd and be like, what the hell is this? Like, this arena's it just looks like a bingo hall compared to like a Monday Night Raw arena. Or like, where's the John Cena's? Where's that? I think USA is paying them, I think it's like $50 million an episode. I want to say that's what it was. I might be wrong with that. But I mean, we just have to wait and see.
Well, now, I asked this question in the group online. So, guys, we're on facebook.com/group/pro-wrestling-marks. And I was like, okay, so, yeah, we know what NXT is. Yes, every wrestling fan who watches WWE knows what NXT is. Okay, now you have the casual fan, maybe the younger kid who doesn't have the WWE network yet. They just know Raw or WWE. You put this on TV. We know it as, it's WWE's developmental league, or this is before the main roster. But now you have 3 WWE products, 3 shows on the USA, or one's going to go into Fox, but you have you have shows on national TV, and how do you differentiate between it? Because now a kid sees NXT, they just think it's brand number 3. So do you think WWE is going to like come up with another show that's like what NXT was for developmental, to where they could use some of the guys on the pre-NXT shows where they tour around with them, they don't go on TV yet, but does it, you know what I mean? Like, how can you tell the difference between the person who doesn't know what WWE is, to where you're just going to see that WWE logo on there, and whether it's Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, it's just a third brand now, right? I mean, how do you feel about that? Because I feel like a lot of the casuals that just don't know it, that's what it's going to seem like to them.
I think what they're kind of screwing up, like, they're showing a lot of the headlines of NXT, but I think what they need to start doing, I mean, they got 2 weeks. They need to start kind of doing like small little video packages on Raw or SmackDown, just showcasing like some of the superstars you're going to see on NXT, like the Undisputed Era. You got a Johnny Gargano. You have Velveteen Dream, like, just to show these casual fans who just tune into Raw the superstars and the wrestlers they're going to see every Wednesday night, to what to tune into, what to expect. I mean, to kind of show a highlight package of that Keith Lee versus Donovan Dijakovic match, holy shit, that would freaking catch some people's eyes in a heartbeat. All those high fly moves those big men did.
Everybody's behind AEW, and I get it, but TNA had bigger names. They had Sting. They had Flair. They had the names of the pro wrestling world, and they still couldn't touch WWE in the ratings. And granted, that was on Spike. And I know we're going to TNT, back to where WCW was,
let's just explain to you this right now. It's called a shitty fucking network. Spike TV, I don't even think is relevant in any way, shape, or form today. And
the
even
Paramount
then.
Network.
Huh?
But what it was,
yeah, exactly. It was struggling at that time to have its own identity. It didn't know what kind of viewers it wanted to draw. So you had all sorts of different types of. They've tried to rebrand that fucking channel, God knows how many times. That went from, what was it, TNN to Spike TV to now it's the Paramount Network.
Wasn't it a country network before?
No, it was the Nashville Network, TNN. Yeah.
That's when
like
ECW was on there.
And
WWE was on there too.
Yep. So that's I think that has to do a lot with it. I mean, what other shows can you think of that were ever relevant from Spike TV? It's a shitty network, and it was then. It still is now. It doesn't have the fucking name recognition that I think a lot of viewers wanted to see. There was nothing else that drew fans in. There were no good lead-in shows that were, if you were watching that channel, oh shit, let me check this out. It really didn't have anything.
That is true. They didn't have any great lead-in shows for anything, not even for the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, they would play cops.
Yes.
Leading into like Impact.
Yeah.
The only other show from Spike that I think ever was ever any good was, remember the Deadliest Warrior?
Yeah.
That was a cool show, but I think that was a completely different day, and it fizzled out after like
Do you remember
seasons.
Joe's versus Pros or Pros versus Joe's?
Stupidest fucking
I
show.
know.
I thank God when that got canceled.
All right, guys. So, but we are, like I said, we're out of summer. We're weeks away from AEW doing their weekly television show, so it's happening now. We're almost in September. This is what's happening. But at the end of the day, guys, what if? Give me a what if scenario. I want Mike. You're going to answer one side. Cooter, you answer the other side. So, what if, Mike? AEW does really good in ratings to where they're beating NXT. Hell, they're beating Raw's ratings and SmackDown. What happens? And Cooter, what happens if AEW doesn't do as good as they thought they would do, to where they're getting shit ratings, to where, like I said, you're on a national television show, you can get canceled. You know what I mean? Like, just because you have a good product, or you think it's a good product, you ain't pulling up those ratings, they're going to say goodbye and bring on fucking another show to replace you, kind of thing. So, Mike, you give me the pros of what happens if AEW does really well, and Cooter, you give me the pros of what happens if they fail to win this war.
If they do really well, I think it's going to be great for us as fans, because if they're going to do really well, you know damn well NXT is going to step their game up and try to match them every week. And then we're just going to have amazing wrestling content on both ends. And then including, I mean, if the main roster finally gets their shit together in the storytelling department, we'll have some great stuff going on there too.
And you know
that's just wishful thinking in my book, but
yeah. All right, Cooter, what do you think? What if they fail to deliver?
I think they're gonna fail. I think that it's a very high pressure situation, and you're expecting a lot out. And I feel bad for Khan. I think he's spending a lot of money. I really feel like he doesn't know what he's getting into, with a talent pool that is, is what it is. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Outside of a few key names that could feud, until you start seeing guys maybe jump ship, I think them weathering the storm from the get-go is going to be really tough on them, given the roster situation. I really feel that way. But, a Revival, a Rusev, some other big names who could be coming up, maybe jumping ship eventually, it might make things a little more interesting. But they're going to have to drag it out for as long as they possibly can and make sure in the process that it doesn't get boring. But you know what? If they fail, I feel bad for a lot of guys.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Will you be watching the product? Will you give it a chance?
I absolutely will give it a chance. It will be DVR'd.
As long as it doesn't matter.
I'm not going to sit there and I'm going to analyze every second of every minute of that show, because there's a lot of guys on there I really
now
don't give a
can
fuck
you
about.
do us, including myself and the listeners, a favor? Give us your honest opinion whether you loved it or you hated it. I know you.
I always do.
Real.
I've always said that. I've always said the good things about the product that I've liked and the bad things that I've liked. I've put over a bunch of matches by them.
As supportive as I am of AEW, and trust me, I've been supportive of them since day one, and the reason why I've been supportive of them because it's something different. But if they somehow are fucking blowing it, like, I'll call it as it is. As much as I don't want to, because I don't want to see them fail. I don't want to see any company fail. I really don't. But, I'll call it as it is. Do I think they're going to beat NXT? I can't even tell you, to be honest with you. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest issue for me is that it seems that a lot of the talent has the book, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Everybody's
don't like that.
Producer, director.
Actually, I can 110% agree with that.
They should have kayfabed that shit from the beginning. They shouldn't have been like, "Oh, I'm executive vice president." I'm executive. Stop.
Well, I thought it was kayfabe because the way the being the elite is, like, they're very like sketch comedy, and the way they were like, "I'm the vice president," no, I'm the vice president, and like it was a running gag. But then I realized, no, they're dead fucking serious. They all
Yep. They're going to fight by the sword or die by the sword, so something's going to happen with that. But what's going to be interesting is when they jump ship. And I think that's the one thing that AEW needs to really do is to, like, show them why they should jump ship. Whether it's the storylines, whether it's the fucking health insurance like they stated in the beginning. What is going to make all these WWE contract guys who are getting guaranteed whatever, making all this money, what is going to make them jump ship? So that's what I'm kind of curious to watch, because they don't just have to impress the fans out there. They don't just have to impress, the casual viewer. They need to impress the other wrestlers of why they need to leave WWE and come over here. And that's what I think is going to be interesting. It's not just do they have pyro or whatever. I really feel like, it's what are they doing better than WWE, and, the health, like they don't have to tour 365, 4 days a year, have the 1 day off. Like, how are they going to do it for TV? How are they going to present them better to the wrestling world? And, come times, there's going to be time where someone's going to have to sign a contract to where, WWE wants me. AEW wants me. Who do I sign with? And that's, how do you lure in all those other wrestlers out there? So that's what I'm kind of curious. At the end of the day, guys, AEW All Out. Are you going to be all in watching it this weekend? And I don't know. We'll see what happens, guys. But stay tuned to next week. We got some great guests coming up. Cooter, next week we have Fonzie on. Bill Alfonso.
Oh, God, that's going to be funny, man, because
Bill
I know him.
Alfonso.
He's a fucking loose cannon, bro.
Referee to manager to fucking, he fought Beulah McGillicuddy in ECW. Lost a lot of blood in that, too. So, yeah, I mean, the guests are back, guys. I think all in all, the band's back. You know what I'm saying? The band's back together.